You're listening to the Marketing Happy Hour podcast, where we discuss career and industry insights with our peers in marketing.
We're here to talk about it all, like the ups and downs of working in social media,
how to build authentic relationships in the influencer and PR space,
managing a 9-to-5 and a side hustle at the same time,
how to be productive in your life and career without losing your sanity, and more.
Ultimately, we're here to build a community with you because we're all trying to navigate the world of marketing together.
Are you ready? Grab your favorite drink and join your hosts, Cassie and Erica, for this week's episode. Welcome back to Marketing Happy Hour. This week, we are so excited to share our conversation with Quani Burnett, founder and CEO of Soft Rose, a new texture-first hair care brand reimagining cultural beauty staples, currently in its pre-launch stage as part of the Sephora Accelerate 2024 program. In this episode, Quani explains how her passion for inclusivity in the beauty space led to her consulting for many incredible brands like Youth to the People and making a true impact. She then walks us through her journey, taking the leap to build her own beauty brand, Soft Rose, and dives into how her team is thinking about their authentic marketing strategy, both pre and post-launch, and how they're working to become a true community-led brand. Grab your favorite drink and listen in with us.
Hi, Quani. Welcome to Marketing Happy Hour. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you two?
So well. Thank you so much for being here. This is our, I would say, first time we're talking to a founder kind of pre-launch, gearing up to get a brand out there. And you have a really awesome background. So very excited to just dive into what you've been working on and kind of what you're building towards here soon. But before we get into all of that, we have to ask you what's been in your glass recently.
Yes. So it is 8:11 here on the West Coast. So I have been starting my mornings with kombucha. I'm not a caffeine girl. I'm not a coffee girly. I really love tea, but I definitely think just, like GI health is like directly connected to like emotion and all of that. So I just have found that drinking kombucha in the morning really just kind of like settles my stomach. I feel less, it's just like it's a good thing. So
Sets you up for the day. It like sets you on the right track for the rest of your day. I love kombucha too. I actually picked up, I don't know how to pronounce the name of this brand, but I think it's Dessoy, but somebody told me it was Dessoy. It's DE_SOI. Anyway, they came out with a Italian spritz, and it's like a non-alcoholic, adaptogen rich, like sparkling non-alcoholic little number. And I'm really excited to try it. So that's what I'm sipping on today. What do you, Cass?
Oh man. Okay. Both of the things that you two have had are some of my favorite things ever. So I love that. I have a Recess actually has a new line of beverages, and they have an island spritz. So I'm trying that this morning. And it is delicious. And I also have some water as well. So got to stay hydrated.
Oh my gosh. It's so fun.
The beverage
So
industry is like booming, and
It is.
for the most part, like I drink water, and it's so interesting like how like consumer behavior has changed. Like when you go into a store and it's like just all of these like individual
Yeah.
so it's
Oh my gosh. That's like our favorite section of the store though. Like you go in and you turn the corner and it's this like freezer or like refrigerator that's just covered in different beverages. Cassie and I, if we go into anywhere like that, we're just like, oh my gosh, this is heaven. We need to try all the things. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting, I feel like, boom in the last couple of years of like new non-alcoholic beverages or like new sparkling waters or like different ways to get like vitamins in you too, which is really cool. I could talk about it all day. And that's one of the fun things about Marketing Happy Hour. Like we get to try all these fun goodies from all these different brands. So always love hearing what people are loving in the moment. But Quani, we really want to hear about your journey from content creator to brand consultant and how those experiences led you to create your new brand of Soft Rose.
Yes. This story, it's, it at times when I tell it, it feels random, but I have to say the last 6 years, when I think about where I am now versus when I created that first Instagram account, I think it all was just leading up to me finding my purpose. So I was working as a physical therapist, and I was serving veterans, and I was also working for the WNBA. And so, what should have felt like a very fulfilling time in my career, I felt a bit lost. And essentially, after the season ended, I tried to find products that would work for both my skin and my hair. And essentially, this was 2018, but essentially, the brands that I was seeing that were very popular, I didn't really see a lot of people of color on their Instagram pages. And so that really just sparked this kind of idea to just create this Instagram account that was really geared towards inclusivity. So my first ever Instagram account, my tagline was pushing the agenda of inclusivity. And I think it's really, I don't want to say that it's random, but it's like I was this physical therapist, and somehow like I just kind of like I saw something and I felt deeply connected to it as a Black woman, and I just like went with it even though I had like no experience. So I created this Instagram account, and essentially I was just very passionate. So as an example, like if brands would post, their model campaigns or their websites, I'd say, hey, I looked at your Instagram account, and out of the 30 images, I only see one person of color. Like this is what I was doing. And I was like directly telling founders this, which again, in retrospect, it kind of seems random, but I think people really respected that I was approaching them in a very genuine way. And so yeah, this Instagram account, it led to me being able to start consulting for brands. So I kind of say, because I was passionate about inclusivity, and I dislike to use this word, but before it became trendy, because I think we can all respect that. During 2020, the murder of George Floyd, there was this increased attention, so to speak, to be inclusive. So brands were posting Black squares. There just kind of was this increased attention, but because I was talking about it well before then, brands just were reaching out, and they're like, come help us. And so I think for me, the guiding light to being a content creator, to a writer, to a consultant, to now building my brand, it's always been this theme of pushing the agenda of inclusivity.
That is amazing and so inspiring. And I love that you mentioned, you were talking about that a long time ago. I feel like it was so needed so long. And I'm glad that you were the one to really speak up there. You were at L'Oreal for a little bit at Youth to the People. Could you tell us a little bit about your work there and what kind of key moments or decisions helped you pivot from working there to starting your own brand?
Yes. So Greg and Joe, the co-founders of You to the People, they saw what I was doing in the online community. And so the story goes that it was their opening party for the Orange Building on Traction Avenue. So it was like a launch party, so to speak. And I remember I was the plus one. I was a plus one to this event. And so I'm at this event, and I'm, just minding my business. And there were like photographers there, and, like Youth to the People was kind of like this building brand in 2019. And I was walking, and Greg, one of the co-founders, he stopped me, and he was like, hey, he was like, I really like what you're doing. And I remember being like, oh wow, like, this like famous co-founder knows me. And so we kind of just kept in touch from that point. And we kept in touch. And I remember one time he was like, would you want to maybe like help out with like building our community? And I was like, of course, like I'd love that. So really my first introduction into You to the People was working with their community and social team. And essentially I just cultivated a community of creators of color. So just really bringing a new audience, again, to this very like popular growing brand. And so I was doing that, I was consulting. And then I remember there kind of came this point where it was like I was feeling ready to make a full-time career leap from physical therapist to working in beauty. And an opportunity opened up. And I always say, I mean, I'm really grateful to, you know, have been able to go from a consultant to being a marketing manager in my first role ever for this, again, for a really amazing brand. So I joined full time as a marketing manager. I've always had these like very long titles. So I think my first title was like marketing manager, community and inclusion strategist. So again, I did a lot, and I'm so thankful for that experience. I think my experience working in corporate beauty was really unmatched, and it really helped um, hone skills that I now use in building soft rose. But I think what's most interesting and what I'm most proud of is that Greg and Joe really believed in the alternative. Like they didn't necessarily pick people that had years of experience of working in, you know, corporate beauty. Like they really saw talent anywhere. They saw talent in their friends. They saw talent in creators on social. They really had an eye for, you know, seeing the talent in people. And I think for me, you know, I got bit by the entrepreneurship bug. I was like, I'm seeing all of these people chase their dreams with, you know, very little experience. And I'm like, wow, I think I could do that too. So I was a marketing manager, I was a social media manager, and when the brand got acquired by L'Oreal, at the time that I left to build Soft Rose, I was leading paid influencer. I was leading paid influencer for L'Oreal. And what's really interesting is that um, from the first day that I interviewed for that full-time position, I told Greg and Joe that I wanted to start my own beauty brand. And I really appreciate that they saw that in me and they respected that and they, you know, they allowed me, you know, like it wasn't, you know, there wasn't anything wrong with that. They're like, we want you to be able to do this someday. And so I'm really grateful. I'm just really grateful for that journey. And yeah, last year I left my role at youth and I said, okay, it's time to really start focusing on soft roles. So that's been a story. And again, I'm really grateful for all of the different roles that I was able to work at in that position or at that company. Because again, it really serves me as, you know, a founder that's bootstrapping and having to do everything really scrappily.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And we're going to talk about that journey too, but tell us a little bit about Soft Rose. You know, what's the inspiration? What are some of the hero products? You know, when are you launching? All of the things that our listeners need to know. Tell us about it.
Yes. So in a very simple way, Soft Rose is a texture first hair brand that is providing next gen styling with next level ingredients. And I love to use the word texture first or texture rich because I've always wanted to speak to textured hair in a positive and in a different light. So I think there's so many misconceptions around textured hair. As a Black woman who grew up with coily hair, on a very deep level, I'm building Soft Rose because it's the brand I wish I had when I was 5 years old, and my mom gave me a relaxer because she said my hair was too unmanageable. It was too nappy. And I'm building Soft Rose because in college, when the natural hair movement was booming and we were big chopping and using raw coconut oil on our hair and really dehydrating our hair over time, like that's why I'm building Soft Rose. So again, I think on a surface level, yeah, it's hair care, but on a deeper level, it's really about interrupting or disrupting the patterns of negative thoughts that women with textured hair have had for centuries. Um, and even the name Soft Rose, it's such It's really rooted in ancestral heritage and history. So the name soft rose really comes from soft, of course, but then cornrows. And so we know that, unfortunately, during times of slavery, Black people, cornrows represented many different things. So the design of cornrows, we know, would serve as like pathways to those who were trying to escape to freedom. It served as a way of communication, so communicating between slaves. Um, and it also served as a way to identify yourself. And so I think for me to have something like Rose in the name, um, it really just honors my heritage in a way that, feels authentic to me. But I think what's very cool is that even if you don't understand the deep reference, I have found that people just simply like the name. So um, I'll tell a funny story, but when I got accepted into Sephora Accelerate, um, a founder of a very large skincare brand, she called me and she's like, "You have the best name and logo." Like she's like,
Oh
"This
my
is
gosh.
amazing." And so I really love when I tell people the brand's name, and um, I love people's reaction when they hear it. So yeah, we're pre-launch, and again, as a bootstrap brand, we are really having to do things scrappily. So, it's not going to come as easy as I want it to, right? And so because of that, um, that has really kind of pushed my desired timeline. But what I can say is that we are working very hard to bring this to market, and we have already begun giving out samples to what we call our Soft Rose Insider Squad. So that was really a huge milestone for us to hit, so that we can really start to get that important feedback. I can say that we are launching 3 SKUs, and I think from a standpoint of what we create, our products are really designed to celebrate the versatility of textured hair. So we say our products keep textured hair healthy through natural, protective, and heat styles. So as you all know, textured hair is not a monolith. I have my hair natural right now, but every so often I wear a silk press, so I straighten my hair. I also like to wear braids. And so I wanted to create a brand that really could flex between those different hairstyles. And I think something, just because it's kind of coming up, but like even we're seeing kind of the significance of textured hair in the Olympics. Um, Simone Biles just really kind of coming into her own about her hair, and, saying it's not going to be, perfectly sleek and slick. And I think that's what Soft Rose is. It's like the antithesis of everything that, the beauty industry is going towards. So like, as an example, like 3 products have launched in the prestige space, like around slickness, like a slick stick or a sleek stick, or a slick wand. And so I think there's kind of these these aspects that are kind of rooted in Eurocentrism, around what hair should look like and what is representable, and what's professional. And it's really freeing to just see people let their hair be. And that's what Soft Rose wants to do. We want to empower people to um, celebrate their texture, but also be able to express themselves in whatever way they see fit.
Oh, this is so awesome. And so many things have just stuck out to me from your journey of just pivoting and following your heart and following kind of that instinct of what you want to do next. And so many lessons, even too, for leaders listening who are hiring people, just to kind of look outside of the traditional printed resume with a perfect background and experience, of just seeing what are people doing outside of their professional careers. Are they creators online? What kind of content are they developing? So thank you for sharing all of that. And also, Eric and I were talking earlier that your branding, name, everything is just perfection. So want to add to the kudos of that and just congrats on everything that you've built so far. But I want to ask a little bit about, as you're developing Soft Rose, what is that influencer marketing approach or strategy looking like for you? I'm sure as a creator yourself, you have this different perspective of how to approach that. So I'm just curious what you're bringing into the brand based off of your past learnings.
Totally. I think it first starts with language. I really love to write, and so I'm rarely saying or speaking the word influencer when I'm talking about Soft Rose. So really everything is about community. And one of the first pillars that I launched was an editorial series called Crown Talks. And this editorial series, it is driven by our community. So every feature features someone in the community. And I think what has been special about this is that we're doing everything organically. And I recently read an article, I believe it was in WWD, but it was just talking about how pretty much everything is like pay to play these days. I believe I saw the statistic was that, and in no way is this like a comparison because these are huge brands, but just as an example, I saw that I think CeraVe, 70% of all content that they push out is page sponsored. And I think with K18, it was 35%, so significantly lower. But when you think of it in the grand scheme of things, that's it's pretty high. um, and so I think for me, it's been really beautiful to like build something completely organically. And because people really see and support the mission. So um, again, because I'm a bootstrap brand, I'm not able to just give out and do things. And sometimes it kind of sometimes it does play into some of the fears that I have, but I'm like, wow, I really have a community of 1,000 strong people who support me when I have nothing to give them. And so I think, again, we really look at everything as community. I'm constantly having Zooms and phone calls and meetups with people. I like I'm always in the comments, I'm always in the DMs. And I think just organically, like I saw content creation, I saw social media as a way to connect with people. And that's what I was doing when I started my first Instagram account. I have people that I started off, meeting in social media, and they're like my best friends now in real life. And so that's like the power of social media. So yeah, I think what we're doing differently is just we're doing it organically. We're doing it slow. We're doing it authentically. And it's never about obligation. I never want anyone who supports Soft Rose. It's never out of obligation. It's like I have people who reach out to me so frequently and they say, how can I help? How can I support you? And I think it's because I've just been very transparent and vulnerable in sharing my journey. So I think just we have this approach of I honestly I can say, a lot of brands they see creators as like commodities, like what they can get out of them, like what EMV or what UGC can I get? And I don't really have that approach. I really am interested in building relationships with my community. And again, we're still so early in our journey, but I think that it's fared well for us so far.
Yeah. And I love how you've already started building that community pre-launch and also just creating this editorial series and starting to put content out there. How important has that been for you just pre-launch to kind of get the ground running on visibility for the brand, having those conversations, sharing your story out there?
Yeah, to be very transparent, I was nervous to start putting content out there, and to to be very honest, the only reason why, and I had to go public with my social media page, was because I got accepted into Sephora Accelerate. So prior to getting into the program, I did not have socials yet. I didn't have a website and I didn't have photography. And once I got into the program, they were like, we need all of this in the next couple of weeks. And so, to be very honest, it was a little bit nerve-wracking because I was like teasing stuff on my personal account and I had a newsletter going, but I wasn't just quite ready to go public, so to speak. So, I really credit the program to forcing me to get some things in place. But I think once I got into the program, because I didn't know when I would launch, I was like, listen, you're gonna have to just start sharing your journey. And it's very encouraging when brands come up to me and they say, we love that you're building in public. So I think so many brands, they give you the final products, right? Like once it's launched. And I've been again showing my very very vulnerable journey and of like refinement and reiteration of the brand. And I look back on some of those past, posts and I'm like, wow, we've come a really long way in a short amount of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, to your point, it's got to be so encouraging now that your story is out there to have people standing by you and cheering you on, as you approach that quote unquote finish line to launch, right? Or at least that initial launch. So that's got to be very helpful too to have people rooting you on through that. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit more about community. You've already mentioned just your strategies for building community and nurturing. I think one of the things that I've noticed with especially startups and small businesses is that the community really reflects the type of person that is at the helm of a business. It really is amazing to see really awesome people start brands, and then you start to see the people gathering around them be truly amazing people as well. But, outside of you just being authentic and being true to yourself and true to your story, is there anything else that you've learned, whether it's with Soft Rose or just your past experience for building that community around the brand? Because I know that's an age old question in marketing. How do I do that? How do I kind of kickstart gathering people to come around me?
I wish I had a more eloquent answer, to be very honest.
Hmm.
Wish I had a more eloquent answer. I have heard the term community be used so much
Yeah.
in my past, and I think I think what I can say that is it's not only about showing up authentically, but it's also about creating something. I think at the heart of what I do, and it's something that I say about my editorial. I say that we share stories, hair practices, and rituals that I say feel uniquely personal yet universally appreciated by all. So this is something that I say frequently, and I think what I mean when I say that is that when you build a brand that is rooted in your history, your culture, your heritage, you can't replicate that, right? But as an example, because we say Soft Rose is an ode to the hair salon. Like you can take something like the hair salon and it's like I'm going to have my experiences with it, but you're going to also have your own experiences with it. And because everyone has their own unique experiences to it, they're going to connect to it in an authentic way. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that again, when you show up authentically, it allows other people to connect to themselves authentically. And so really that's what a community is. A community is a group of people who share commonalities.
Hmm.
And I think when you look at it in that very in a very simplistic way,
Hmm.
it kind of becomes more apparent. So I hope that answered.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It definitely did. And it kind of reminds me of these conversations we've been having recently with marketers of just this friends first approach, like thinking about your community members as friends. And if we think about our truest friendships in our lives, it's kind of a similar concept, right? You're connecting over shared experiences, shared backgrounds, but also you have this gateway to trust and being able to share authentically and feel heard and seen through that. So I like the kind of parallel there. Obviously, it's a little bit different, right? Versus very personal relationships, but that's really what gets people to connect deeply with other humans, and that sounds like exactly what you're doing. So, yeah,
Yeah. And again,
absolutely.
I see so many of my early community. I mean, they are my friends, and
Yeah.
they're friendships that have been built over time. So again,
Yeah.
whether it's a shared passion over inclusion as a creator, or a shared passion for textured hair, I'm really finding that I'm I'm really building rapport and friendship with people in my community. So I mean, it really started off as a content creator. I was really building these relationships and friendships now. And so now that I'm stepping into the role of a founder, it's more just like carryover, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the amazing thing about the internet too, right? As we meet friends and lifelong connections on the internet, which is really cool. So, yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So anything else, just as you're ramping up, of course, anything that you can share now at this stage of pre-launch, but in terms of just marketing strategy in general, what are you kind of thinking about? You talked about messaging, which is such an important factor, building community. Is there anything else that you're kind of prioritizing going into this launch that you have coming up?
Yeah, I think we are really going to continue to share the journey of leading up to building soft rose. So um again, it's a very trendy word, but behind the scenes content. But I think for me, we're just going to continue to dive deeper. So August is Black Business Month, and I'm really excited to kind of go deeper into some of the things that some of the foundational business principles that I was blessed and grateful to have been instilled in me when launching my brand. So, just simple things as, do you have your trademarks and your handles, and, are you protecting your IP? Do you own your formulas? Who's formulating your products? I think as a textured hair brand, we wanted to make sure that we were not only culturally inclusive, but we're culturally nuanced. And so much of that is done in the research and development and the formulating of your products. So, to be very frank, I think that's why traditionally people with textured hair have not felt like products have been for them. And that's because they're being created by people who don't necessarily have textured hair. And so when you're creating something that you don't have a direct connection to, I think it shows. And so, I think for us, that last piece you talked about, messaging and community, it's really just the journey of brand building. And as we get closer, we're just really finding like new ways. We're finding new ways to introduce the brand. So I'll say something I'm really excited about or just love is that, as an example, one of the big colors that we primarily use is purple. And so I remember, as an example, for Sephora Accelerate, we had to go to Sephora headquarters twice, and I wore this purple blazer. And so there's kind of like this just thing whenever there's something purple, sometimes the community will tag me and be like, it's soft rose purple. And so again, it's really cool as this like early stage brand to already be able to kind of have some of these like recognition, so to speak. And it's just something that I like to play up. But um, to be very honest with you, I'm also just taking this day by day. I I really respect brands that work 2 years in advance. And trust me, I've worked for brands that have to do that and I understand it. But again, when you're bootstrapping a brand and you're really doing everything by yourself, you have to find yourself staying present. And so for me, one of the quotes that I have been living by is to be where your feet are. And so, even something like this is an opportunity to get my name out and it right. And it happened organically. And it wasn't something like, 6 months ago, I was like, oh, I have to be on a podcast for recognition. Like, you know what I mean? So I think for me, it's yes, we have to plan ahead, but also we also have to ground ourselves and be present.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I'm writing that down right now. That is so good. So on that, I can only imagine what the journey has been for you just developing this brand. Do you have any encouragement to those listening who have this idea, this concept in mind, or even drive to kind of completely pivot away from the trajectory of their career so far, just to make that leap and to make that jump that you could pass along?
It takes a lot of faith. It takes a lot of perseverance. But if you believe in, if you just believe in purpose and passion, life will, life will, life will gently push you to finding your way. So
Mhm.
when I was experiencing that feeling of wanting to make a career pivot, it was because the passion was it was too strong. Like I couldn't not say yes to this new opportunity. And I've been a very cautious person my entire life. I'm a first generation college graduate, first in my family to get a doctorate degree. I've always been very, you know, I've, to be very honest, I've always lived my life for my family to make my family proud. And so, we laugh about it now, but I think I gave them all mini strokes when I told them I was going to leave a job that required 8 years of education. Um, but I think that they saw it as me, finally exploring something for myself and so
Mhm.
for myself. And so I think for anyone who is looking to make a career pivot, I am not telling you just to go at it with a dollar and a dream. So again, I was a very cautious person. I made sure that, financially it made sense. Again, I was a very, very cautious person. So I think if you are looking to make a pivot, I would say really think about, your expenses. Look at, what are some things that you can cut? What are your non-negotiables, so to speak? And just make sure that it makes sense, right? Because let's be honest, the economy we live in, it has to. Um, and I think for anyone who's wanting to start a brand or to start something new, I think the most important thing would say is that you really have to know your why. And
Mhm.
because I so many people tell me like, why are you doing this? There's a bunch of hair brands and textured hair brands on the market. I mean, if I didn't have the resolve that I have, honestly, I probably have given up by now, but because I really think that I'm speaking to textured hair in a different way, not only through our messaging, but then the way that we're formulating. So we really are going after a more science forward approach
Mhm.
um, in a beauty industry where typically textured hair products are centered around natural ingredients, shea butters and coconut oils. And I'm like, I want to bring peptides and hyaluronic acid. Um, to it. But I think because, I'm so convicted in my why,
Mhm.
that's really what keeps me going when so many people and so many doors are saying no and being closed.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness, such good advice. Thank you so much for that. And we're just so excited to stay in touch with you and watch as this brand evolves and develops and launches and even grows from there. But speaking of that, what's the best way that we can stay in touch with Soft Rose and even you personally and just look out for everything that you all are doing?
Yes. So please follow us on Instagram and TikTok at soft_rose, ROWS. And you can also catch me personally on my personal account at It's Simply Quani, ITSSIMPLYQUANI. Um, yeah, we primarily use Instagram and TikTok, and then I also encourage people to subscribe to my newsletter. So I do a monthly founder newsletter that is an online exclusive, and because I really love to write, I tend to go really in depth about the journey and the experience, and um, our online or subscribed community is hundreds strong, and it's really been encouraging to get the positive feedback that we're getting simply from me just sharing my thoughts as a founder.
Oh my gosh, awesome. Well, we will have all of that linked below. And just want to thank you again for coming on and sharing your journey with us. We're so excited for you, and we'll definitely have you back once you're launched and going to kind of talk about what that launch process was looking like for you and just check in general. But thank you so much for being here today, Kwani.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. We hoped you loved it as much as we did. If you enjoyed the conversation, we'd love to get your feedback on the episode. Head to the review section of your favorite podcast app and let us know what you thought. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.